Hello friends, I hope you're having a great day. Alright, so in this video I'm going to continue on the same song I've been working on the last couple of videos, specifically working on the lyrics. I wanted to focus in on the verse because this was like a puzzle. I was really having a tough time with these lyrics and I wanted to walk you through how I developed them. I'm feeling really good with where they're at now. But you know, I had to go through a few things to get there. So to level set, just to remind you what we're doing here. So I've got the melody, and I wanted to have two different. Basically, there's two melodies going at the same time, and the idea was it felt like two halves of my brain kind of going at it when I put the music down, and so I wanted to write lyrics to support that. I'll play it through one time here. So there's no lyrics here, obviously. Well, there's a few random words in here that just felt right while I was singing, but this is what I had to work with. Right? How do I turn this into lyrics that tell a good story? And again, if you remember from the video, it was the two halves of my brain screaming at each other is kind of the idea I was going at. So angel on one shoulder, devil on the other. That's where I started. Right? How do I turn this into some good lyrics? And so the first thing I did, and I haven't done it as much on this channel, but if you know me, I mean, I live by mind maps. It's the only way I can keep my ish organized. So my thought was, okay, I got this guy over here. He's got a problem. I got this guy over here trying to talk him off the ledge. That was my thought. And I went and did some research. All right, so what are some potential triggers for this side? What are, you know, what's an unhealthy relationship versus a healthy relationship? Some verbal and nonverbal cues. What are the different emotions I might be feeling? And I was just letting it out. And if I was like, oh, I wonder what that is, I just go research. Hey, what are healthy emotions? And I captured those, and I started to really give each voice a little bit of a character. That's what I was trying to do. Long story short, this didn't really get me where I wanted to go. So I said, okay, I'm going to zoom out. Next day, I'm going to rethink it. And so, little help from AI. I went in and essentially, 5-year-old just woke up. So this got to be quick now. So what I did is I put it into AI and I said, hey, Mr. AI guru guy, write me a conversation between the two halves of my brain about walking and running, where there's a disagreement. So this was one side of the conversation and this was the other side of the conversation. And it wasn't story enough, if that makes any sense. So then I said, okay, write me a dialogue between the two halves of my brain where they're breaking up. And this is the one side of the conversation, and this is the other side of the conversation. And that gave me some really good fodder, actually more than I could ever possibly put into a song, unless I'm rapping, and I've tried to rap. I got a song out if you want. Is I took those nuggets, right? So I said, okay, these three kind of have a similar idea, and I summarized it, right? So this is verse 1. Here's a summary of those first 3 points that the left half of my brain is making. Same thing for verse 2, same thing for verse 3 to get all the way through the conversation. Did the same thing for the right half of my brain. And then I went back to the music, and I counted out, okay, the left brain for each verse has this many syllables to work with. So if I go back to the song real quick, where are we at? There we go. And I'm just going to mute this guy. Here you go. So that's 7 and 7. So that's how I counted those out. And then hey, good morning, buddy. So I put all of that together and started to write out, okay, here I split each of those summaries into a first half and a second half of each verse. And looking at the count 7755, I just started to write, "You are too intense for me. You are too intense for me." And that kind of shows you are so irrational, right? You're getting that second 7, and then coming down here. Anyway, that is. I'm trying to talk and count and say good morning to my man at the same time, and it's not working. But you get the idea, right? I've got my syllable count. I've got the basic idea of what I'm trying to say, and I'm just taking all of that noise, treating it like a short story, where I might write 100 pages. But at the end of the day, I need 5. How do I tell that 100-page story in 5 pages? And so I took that approach and I iterated and I iterated, worked on it at lunch, at work, sitting down, watching TV. Oh, I had an idea, right? Just like you do, right? Just let your brain noodle on it in the background. And ultimately, I came up with what I really like. And, this is kind of the first verse, and you can kind of see left brain, right brain. It's no longer the antagonist and the guy trying to talk him off the ledge. Now it's hey, I feel right. Left brain says I feel really solid in my, my point of view. All right, like, what don't you get? Right side of the brain saying the same thing, right? Like, dude, like you can't plan every aspect of your life. You gotta live a little. And so verse 1, verse 2, verse 3. Walk through that, and then there's a little bit of a conclusion there at the end, but that is how I got to the lyrics, and now I'm excited to record in the verses and start to see. I should say another piece that I did is every time I wrote a verse I'd try to sing it in, and there'd be phrases that I loved on the page, and when I tried to sing them, they just didn't feel right, which happens a lot when you're working on lyrics. So in some cases, it's just a tweak of the words, right? Maybe putting a different vowel sound in there so that it just feels more natural in your mouth. But sometimes it forces you to kind of just rethink that whole phrase, because you can't figure out how to get that message out there and still be able to sing it and have it sound natural. But I went through it all, and I'm really happy with where the lyrics are now, and ready to sing them in. Make sure, what's really cool about this is I know what my melody is. I've got an idea of the lyric count, so I have that, creativity within some boundaries, right? It's really hard to be super creative and end up with something tangible if you don't put some boundaries around it. And this is kind of how I put those boundaries in place. And now I get to get back to the fun part, which is making some music, singing this, and the emotions are just super clear. I know exactly what I want to be feeling as I'm singing these lines, because I went through this process of really fine-tuning, where I don't have to think about, how do I make this sound just right? It just comes out natural now as I'm singing it. So I look forward to sharing that with you in the future. But that's a look behind the scenes of at least in this case, how I got to the lyrics that I ended up using for this track. And as we know, I'll probably tweak them a little bit as I go, but I'd say they're 90-95% of the way there. All right, guys, stay awesome.